Hello and welcome to World Konnect, your window to the world. It has been a rather difficult week for leaders around the world. For instance, South Korean MPs vote to impeach President Park Geun-Hye. Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi resigns after losing the crucial referendum. UK PM Theresa May can't do much about Brexit at the moment as the decision is pending with the Supreme Court. While there is some hope for the end of civil war in Aleppo, Christmas festivities have begun all over the world. All that and much more in the show up ahead. Let's begin with the focus of the show. South Korean MPs unite to impeach President Park Geun-Hye. Serious charges of corruption make Park the most unpopular politician in the country. End to Syrian civil war in sight as Assad's forces set to take control of Aleppo. While global powers negotiate peace, the conflict has left thousands dead, injured and trapped in the city. UK Supreme Court to decide on the future of Brexit. PM Theresa May and Parliament tussle over Article 50. Pro-Brexit critics call the delay an attempt to undermine June referendum. After Taiwan faux pas, Donald Trump commits to improving ties with China, nominates Beijing-friendly Iowa Governor Terry Branstad as the next US ambassador to China. Christmas festivities around the world, 60 bakers come together to make the largest Stollen cake in Germany. The South Korean President Park Geun-Hye's political life continues to be in downward spiral after MPs voted by a huge margin to impeach her over charges of corruption. From being the beacon of hope, she now has become the country's most unpopular leader since it became a democracy in the 80s. Park Geun-Hye says she hopes confusion surrounding South Korea's political crisis would soon be resolved after Parliament voted to impeach her, adding that she would prepare for a court review of the impeachment motion.
South Korean lawmakers voted to impeach President Park Geun-Hye in a parliamentary vote. President Park has now been stripped away of her executive powers over an influence peddling scandal involving her close associate. Park's authority has now been transferred to Prime Minister World Konnect. The impeachment motion, which was adopted by 234 votes to 56, had accused Park of constitutional and criminal violations that included failure to protect people's lives, bribery and abuse of power. Supported by all 171 opposition and independent lawmakers, an anti-Park faction within the president's Senuri party numbers secured the two-thirds majority required for the motion. The once popular President Park has been under the scanner since the corruption scandal, which also focused on her friendship with long-time confidant Choi Soon-sil. For those who had expected Park to be different from the string of leaders involved in graft investigations, it was a blow. However, as soon as the scandal came to the open, people came out in large numbers across the South Korea to demand her resignation. The Constitutional Court will now take a call on whether to ratify the decision. This ruling could take up to 6 months. Park will be allowed to remain in the presidential Blue House, but the country now faces a long period of political uncertainty that is likely to lead to policy paralysis.
The fate of tens and thousands of civilians and rebel fighters is at stake as Syrian government forces stand poised to retake the last neighborhoods of the city of Aleppo. Aleppo was Syria's largest city before the war emerged from the uprising that began in 2011. Since 2012, Aleppo has been a key battleground in the fight between the regime and the armed opposition groups. Even as global powers try to broker peace, the 5-year-old war has already claimed over 800 casualties, thousands are wounded and several more still trapped in the city.
Syrian government forces have gained control over old Aleppo, and in what seems to be a faint ray of hope in the country, President Bashar al-Assad said this is a major step towards the end of a over 5-year-long civil war. In a 3-week offensive, Syrian government forces have seized about 80% of East Aleppo, a stronghold for rebel groups since 2012. Russia has also announced that the Syrian army was halting military operations in order to evacuate civilians from Aleppo. According to city officials, more than 800 people have been killed and 3,000 to 3,500 wounded in eastern Aleppo in the past 26 days, and hundreds of other civilians remain trapped. The global powers, meanwhile, are continuing efforts to bring about peace in the war-torn country. Addressing the media following a closed-door meeting of the Security Council, UN Special Envoy to Syria Stefan de Mistura said there was a sense of unity prevalent during the talks. The latest talks between US Secretary of State John Kerry and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Hamburg made way for a Geneva meeting with military and security experts.
We are preparing to work on next steps. Secretary Kerry spoke by phone today with Foreign Minister Lavrov about the situation on the ground in Aleppo. They agreed to continue discussions about a desperately needed humanitarian aid, as well as the safe departure of those who wish to leave the city.
An agreement has been reached to hold a meeting between our military experts and diplomats in order to finalize the work that has somewhat sporadically continued over all these days on a document that would determine ways and means of reaching the final solution of eastern Aleppo problems by ensuring the withdrawals of all militants as well as civilians who would want to leave.
After a UN vote on Syria's ceasefire process was vetoed by Russia and China, the latest developments show a turn for the better in an effort to maintain peace in the historical country and bring relief to the affected civilians.
More than 11,000 people have been left homeless in Indonesia's quake-hit Aceh province. Search and rescue operations ended 3 days after 6.5 powerful earthquake hit the northern province of Archipelago nation, killing more than 100 people. Wednesday's earthquake toppled dozens of buildings and injured hundreds of people. It was the worst disaster to hit the region since 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Many residents of the town had been sleeping in shelters, while the relief workers handed out food, water and blankets. The injured are getting treatment for broken bones in hospitals and tent clinics. Indonesian President Joko Widodo visited survivors of the quake on Friday. The province of Aceh on the northern tip of Sumatra Island has declared a 2-week state of emergency. The government has pledged aid for the recovery efforts. Bill English is all set to become the 39th Prime Minister of New Zealand. Popular PM John Key's shock resignation came in early this week. Key had also put forward Deputy PM English's name as his preferred successor. The two other contenders, Police Minister Judith Collins and Health Minister Jonathan Coleman, withdrew their nominations and said they were putting their support behind English after it became clear that Deputy Prime Minister had the majority of the support from the lawmakers. John Key, who won praise for his economic stewardship after the global financial crisis, resigned, saying it was time to leave politics after more than 8 years in power. Pakistan mourned the 47 victims of its deadliest plane crash in 4 years, including a famed rock star turned Muslim evangelist Junaid Jamshed. Even as officials investigated the cause of the disaster, engine trouble was initially believed responsible. However, many questions remain, adding to the worries about the safety record of money-losing state carrier Pakistani International Airlines. An airline official said the aircraft involved in the crash had undergone regular maintenance. Grief erupted online soon after flight PK661 smashed into the side of the mountain in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province on Wednesday after taking off from the mountain resort region of Chitral. Post-Brexit drama in the United Kingdom continues even as Theresa May led government in making all-out efforts to start the Brexit process as soon as possible. The legal battle over Britain's exit from the European Union is now in purview of the top court. Britain's Supreme Court will soon make a decision on whether Prime Minister May can trigger Brexit by end of March without Parliament's assent. Last month, the High Court decided that May would not invoke Article 50. The EU's exit clause of the Lisbon Treaty using executive powers known as the Royal Prerogative. Gina Miller and other challengers against the government argue that triggering Article 50 would mean citizens would lose their rights granted by the Parliament, and so only lawmakers could take these rights away.
The enormity of the case in that it would set a precedent, though that the government could use a prerogative to take away rights on the domestic plane, is really does come home when you sit and hear all the arguments.
It's important to remember this is power in the hands of government to do what the people have said they want doing, and that's the argument that we've been making in court, and we will wait and see what the judges make of it.
Order. The case could potentially hamper May's Brexit plans, as involving lawmakers is likely to lessen the chances of a hard Brexit. Pro-Brexit critics have also said that the case is an attempt by pro-EU establishment to thwart the result of the June's referendum. Italian Prime Minister Matteo Renzi has resigned. He stepped down 3 days after losing a referendum that he had staked his career on. Opposition has demanded a quick vote. Renzi's resignation comes as his country reels under political and economic crisis. It would have larger implications for the European Union as well, especially after the Brexit blow. Bernard Cazeneuve is the new Prime Minister of France. Cazeneuve is a close ally of President Hollande and has become a popular figure in the French politics as a champion of measures tackling extremism. Manuel Valls stepped down to run for presidential polls next year. However, polls indicate, given the anti-establishment wave across the West, a strong showing for the anti-immigrant party, Marine Le Pen, in the presidential polls. Bernard Cazeneuve took over as the new Prime Minister of France after Manuel Valls quit to focus on the socialist nomination in next year's presidential election. 53-year-old Cazeneuve has served in various government roles, including Budget Minister and Minister in charge of European Affairs, before becoming Interior Minister in April 2014. In the cabinet reshuffle that followed, senior socialist lawmaker Bruno Leroux took over as the Interior Minister. After the new government was announced, President François Hollande said Cazeneuve's government had a mission to protect France's cohesion, social model and investment opportunities. Hollande will step down after the May presidential elections. He had earlier announced that he will not seek a second term, following which Valls announced his campaign for the top post. Opinion polls suggest Manuel Valls to win the socialist primaries to be held in January next year. However, he would face stiff competition from fellow party rivals.
I have the strength within me, this will, to serve my country. It's beyond words, it's total conviction. I want to give everything for France, which has given me so much.
The socialists have not had a smooth run in the last 5 years, and as the PM, Valls might have to take the brunt of public discontent in the polls. Opinion polls indicate that French presidential vote will come down to a duel between conservative candidate and former PM François Fillon and far-right National Front leader Marine Le Pen. Anti-establishment wave across the West, evident in Brexit, US election and Italian constitutional referendum, also signify a strong showing for anti-immigrant parties. Marine Le Pen. President-elect Donald Trump has said that US needs to improve its relationship with China. Now, this is after he criticized China repeatedly during his presidential campaign and drew a diplomatic protest from Beijing for warming up to President of Taiwan. To boost ties, he nominated Iowa Governor Terry Branstad, a pro-China candidate, as the next US ambassador to China. He also made news for the other new members of his administration and comments on the super-expensive Boeing's new Air Force One.
While last week saw President-elect Donald Trump rattling China, the world's second-largest economy, with tough talk on trade and worse, a telephone call with the leader of Taiwan, this week saw Trump toning down his unpredictable and aggressive stance and work on damage control while he continued to pick the crucial members of his administration. With an aim to improve ties with China, Trump nominated Iowa Governor Terry Branstad as the next US ambassador to China, considered a long-standing friend of Beijing.
We have to improve is our relationship with China. We're going to have mutual respect. We're going to have mutual respect. And China's going to benefit, and we're going to benefit, and Terry's going to lead the way.
The Chinese government warmed up to Trump's conciliatory gesture and praised his choice of the next American ambassador to China.
Of Governor Branstad himself, I already commented on this yesterday. He is an old friend of the Chinese people. For all these years, he has, in his role as state governor, put a lot of effort into promoting China-US cooperation. We hope that he can make a greater contribution to the development of China-US relations.
Meanwhile, Trump picked Oklahoma Attorney General Scott Pruitt to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. The choice, which enraged environmental activists and cheered the oil industry, signals that the Republican president-elect plans to move ahead with his promise to cut back regulation and free up drilling and coal mining, in a likely reversal of Democratic President Barack Obama's environmental agenda. President-elect has chosen former Marine General 66-year-old John Kelly as head of the Department of Homeland Security. He is known to be a battle-hardened commander. Professional wrestling magnate and former Senate candidate Linda McMahon has been tapped to head the Small Business Administration, or SBA. She is going to be a key player in Trump's effort to generate stronger job growth and roll back federal regulations. The week also saw President-elect Donald Trump criticizing Boeing's new Air Force One as too expensive, after earlier urging the government to cancel the company's contract on Twitter. Amidst these developments, a federal judge in Michigan revoked his order requiring a recount of the state's presidential vote sought by Jill Stein, siding with a state appeals court that found the Green Party candidate had no grounds to mount the challenge. Although Green Party supporters continue to rally in freezing temperatures in Michigan's capital to urge its high court to revive a recount of presidential votes in one of the three states where the party wants ballots re-examined.
According to the Time magazine, US President-elect Donald Trump has had the greatest influence on world events throughout the year. Noting the fact, the magazine has named the Republican winner of the US presidential poll its Person of the Year 2016. Trump was chosen by Time editors for the annual honor from among world leaders, artists, corporate tycoons, and path-breaking organizations who, as person, had the greatest influence for better or worse on the events of the year. Trump, who has appeared on various covers of Time magazine, will now be its cover as the Person of the Year with subheadline President of the Divided States of America. Now, reacting to it, Donald Trump termed it as a great honor. About the tagline that he will be President of the Divided States of America, Trump said that he has not done anything to divide the country. Bolivia's defense minister has said that a plane crashed that killed 71 people traveling to Colombia aboard a Bolivian-registered charter plane was murder, accusing the pilot of flying with insufficient fuel. The Lamia Airlines plane slammed into the mountains outside Medellin last week, killing most of Brazilian football team Chapecoense Real as they traveled to a match. A harrowing recording has emerged of the pilot radioing the control tower to report he was out of fuel. Prosecutors in Bolivia, Brazil and Colombia are carrying out a joint investigation into the crash. However, Colombia's civil aviation safety chief has said the plane disregarded international rules on fuel reserves. Bolivia has suspended the airline's permit and arrested its manager and his son, who is an official in the Civil Aviation Authority. Opposition leader Nana Akufo-Addo won Ghana's national election, becoming president-elect at the third attempt. The election upholds the country's reputation as a standard-bearer of democracy in a region that has been blighted by civil wars and coups. Akufo-Addo defeated President John Mahama by 54% to 44%. 72-year-old Akufo-Addo served as foreign minister and attorney general in the NPP government previously. And let's take a look at some more stories that made headlines across the world. Hollywood legend Kirk Douglas turned 100 on December 9 after a long movie career that had stretched across 7 decades. The star of films like Spartacus and The Vikings, Douglas was one of the biggest box office stars of the 1950s and 60s and made more than 90 movies. He also played a major role in breaking the Hollywood blacklist actors, directors and writers who were shunned professionally because of links to the communist movement in the 1950s, an act he was more proud of than any film he did. Walt Disney's fans can snap up a piece of history when late animation entrepreneur's signed will goes under the hammer as part of a rare auction. The Animation and Designer auction at Profiles in History in Los Angeles is offering 600 lots of animation art and Disney-related items. Other highlights from the sale include animation frames from Cinderella, Dumbo, and How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and a prop pistol from the original Pirates of the Caribbean attraction at Walt Disney World. Hollywood stars lit up the red carpet in Dubai for the opening of the International Film Festival. American actor Samuel L. Jackson, Jake Lacy were among a host of regional and international movie stars, producers and directors that lit up the event. The festival will run for 8 days and will showcase more than 150 films in 44 different languages from 55 countries. Festive comedy Office Christmas Party enters the box office race this weekend. Jennifer Aniston, Jason Bateman, TJ Miller and Kate McKinnon lead the cast in the humorous holiday movie. The plot revolves around a manager whose CEO's sister threatens to shut down his branch, so he throws an epic Christmas party to try and land a big client as things get out of hand. Animated movie Moana has topped the box office for the last 2 weeks. The critically acclaimed film features Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Moi and music from Hamilton's Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Tales of a hero who will journey to find the demigod Maui. And together, they will save us all.
Harry Potter prequel Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them continues to do strong box office and is expected to secure $11.4 million worth of ticket sales this weekend and is on track to secure third place.
Yesterday, a wizard entered New York with a case. A case full of magical creatures.
Now, what is Christmas without the Christmas cake? While there are numerous varieties of the delicacy around the world, today we tell you about Germany's famous Christmas Stollen cake. Now, this year, 60 bakers took a week to bake the world's largest Stollen cake. Don't freak out if I tell you 675 kg of butter and 180 kg of sugar went into making it. Well, after all, it's Christmas.
It is the season to be jolly. Yes, the Christmas season is here, and world over, people begin preparing for the joyful celebrations. Various parts of the world embrace traditions, practices, and recipes unique to the locality to mark the Christmas season. One such is the famous Christmas Stollen cake of Germany's Dresden. The cake has its origin when people prepared baked loaves for the Advent season. Over the years, the chopped fruit, spices, nuts, sugar, milk and icing was added to the recipe, making it a December delicacy. It is a special and must feature in the traditional Christmas market of Dresden, prompting Germans from around the country to gather there for the famed cake. According to the annual practice, slices of the cake are sold, with the proceeds going to charity.
It is definitely worth crowding and pushing because it is really delicious, really. There is no Stollen in Berlin that can compare.
This year was extra special as German bakers came together to prepare the world's largest Stollen cake. Over 60 bakers were involved in the making of this cake for a week. More than a ton of flour, over 675 kilograms of butter, 180 kilograms of sugar went into making this Christmas extravaganza. The resulting raisin Stollen had a length of 3.55 meters, was 1.73 meters wide and 88 centimeters high. The weight is around 2,872 kilograms, and according to the head baker, it is more than 1 ton bigger than the traditionally considered largest Stollen from 1730. Legends state that the largest cake made in 1730 was made for August the Strong, popularly known as Saxon Hercules. Horses had transported the 2,000 kilograms cake to the banquet, and it was sliced with a 5-foot knife.
And this brings us to the end of this edition of World Konnect. Do send us your feedback. You can write to us. Our email ID is worldkonnect.ddnews@gmail.com. You can log on to our Facebook page as well and tweet us at WorldKonnectDD. Before we leave, here are glimpses of breakdance competition finals in Japan. Take care. Goodbye.